Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. I'm Pat from Pat's Path Predictor, and we got an enhanced risk issue for today for parts of the upper Midwest. We have a slight risk for tomorrow. We're going to be going ahead and covering all of that, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. Alright, so this is the situation we have right here. Here's an enhanced risk of severe weather for parts of southwest Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and northeastern Iowa right here, including the city of La Crosse, Rochester, Waterloo, and Ames, as well as Cedar Falls, Iowa. So this is what we have right here. It's just outside Des Moines. Slight risk encompasses most of Wisconsin, parts of more of Minnesota, including the Minneapolis area, and more of Iowa, including Des Moines, just outside of Omaha. There's also another slight risk for from the Carolinas all the way to Jefferson City, Missouri, including St. Louis, Evansville, Bowling Green, and Charlotte, North Carolina as well. So that's essentially the situation we have right here. Tornado threat, they've actually raised the tornado threat to a 10% area with a hatched area right here, which means there's a 10% risk of EF2 to EF5 tornadoes happening within 25 miles of a point right here, 5% in this area as well as over here as well, and 2% everywhere else. The wind threat's at 30% for this area right here. No hatched area, just regular 30%, 15% right here and here, 5% there. But the hail threat seems to be the largest threat out of the three. You see that 30% risk right here, including into that 15%. There's a hatched area right there, which means there's a 30% risk of very large hail, 2 inches or more within 25 miles of a point. So that's basically what we have right there. So let's go ahead and read the summary and a little bit of what's going on. Summary. A severe threat is expected to develop across parts of the upper Midwest and mid-Missouri Valley this afternoon and evening, with large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes possible. A severe threat will also develop this afternoon into the early evening for parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley, southeastward into the Carolinas. So that's basically why that's there. Upper Midwest. An upper level low will move eastward across the southern Saskatchewan today, as a southwesterly mid-level flow remains over the northern plains and upper Midwest. At the surface, a cold front will advance southeastward across the Dakotas as the low deepens ahead of the front. A warm front attendant to the low will advance northward across southern Minnesota. Surface dew points along with the south of the front will be in the 60s Fahrenheit, so that's a pretty good amount of moisture, which will result in moderate instability by the afternoon across much of the moist sector. Surface-based thunderstorms will most likely develop along the warm front during the afternoon from the southwestern Minnesota east-southeastward into the western central Wisconsin, as the cold front advances southeastward into the mid-Missouri Valley during the early evening. Thunderstorm coverage is forecast to expand southwestward across much of Iowa into far eastern Nebraska. MCS development appears likely across parts of the upper Midwest during the evening and the overnight period. The RAP forecast soundings at 21Z for the warm front in southwest Minnesota, southwest across the moist sector in northern into northern central Iowa, shows an impressive thermodynamic environment. CAPE is forecast to be 2,500 to 400 joules per kilogram, so that's a pretty good amount of instability right there, with 700 to 500 millibar lapse rates near 7.5 centimeters per kilometer. Degrees Celsius per kilometer. This combined with 0 to 6 kilometers shear around 50 knots will be favorable for supercells with large hail. Hailstones greater than 2 inches. Okay, this thing just updated. Hailstones greater than 2 inches in diameter will be possible with more intense supercells. By late afternoon, 0 to 3 storm relative helicity along the same corridors forecast to be in the 350 to 450 meters squared per second squared range. Hydrographs are long and curved, suggesting that tornadoes will be likely with the more intense supercells. A strong tornado or two will be possible along the western edge of the low-level jet during the late afternoon and early evening from western Wisconsin into west central Iowa. Wind damage will also be possible with stronger cells, especially if an MCS can become organized during the evening. Mid-Mississippi Valley and southern Appalachian, the Carolinas. Before we read that, let's actually go ahead and look at the models right here. Let's actually look at the RAP sounding right here for this part of the Midwest right here. So let's use the Cape. Yeah, by 21Z. Looks Cape values in parts of southern Minnesota are cracking 4,500 in some of these areas. So there is definitely going to be more than enough instability for this. So let's actually go ahead. And look at the dew point temperatures here as well. The dew points across parts of the southern Illinois, where that slight risk is in the lower 70s. So that's a good amount of moisture right there. The temperatures they're gonna be not the warmest or anything like that. We're seeing upper 70s to lower 80s in some of these areas. So that's basically what's going on right there. Let's go ahead and you look at the Cape right here for these parts. Like, for example, in parts of St. Louis, we're looking at Cape values cracking 3,000 joules per kilogram. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. So let's go ahead and read this. Zonal western mid-level flow will be in place today for the Central Plains eastward to the Appalachians. At low levels, southerly flow will advect moisture northward into the mid-Mississippi Valley and southern Appalachians. Surface dew points should reach mid-60s to lower 70s, which will result in moderate to strong destabilization by afternoon along a corridor of central Missouri into east-southward into southern Illinois, west southern Kentucky into the Carolinas. Although deep layer shear is forecast to remain below 35 knots for much of the corridor, the Cape in the 2,500 4,000 joules per kilogram range, along with the 0 to 3 kilometer lapse rates near 7.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer, will be favorable for severe storms. Wind damage will be possible during the late afternoon as the low level lapse rates become steepest. The most favorable combination of instability and deep layer shear is forecast in southern Illinois and western Kentucky, where isolated supercells are also possible. As low level flow increases during the late afternoon or early evening, isolated large hail and perhaps a tornado or two may occur with any cell that becomes dominant. The wind damage and hail threat should persist into the early and mid-evening, especially if a cold pool can become organized. So that's basically the situation we have here for today. For tomorrow, a new interesting situation. It looks like the slight risk is more concentrated in the Chicago area as well as in most of Michigan, and not as concentrated further south. We have slight risk in parts of Oklahoma and Texas, so we'll go ahead and read parts of this summary. Severe thunderstorms will be possible Friday afternoon and evening across lower Michigan, perhaps extending into parts of the Midwest. The severe thunderstorms will also be possible across parts of the southern plains during the mid-afternoon and evening. Large hail and damaging wind gusts are expected to be the primary threats. Parts of the Great Lakes and mid-Mississippi Valley. Considerable uncertainty remains regarding the severe potential across the cold front for parts of the Great Lakes into the mid-Mississippi Valley. Deep layer shear will be more effective, for organized convection. A rather strong and extensive EML will support moderate to locally strong buoyancy in the late afternoon along and ahead of the front, but may also suppress convection in the absence of favorable large-scale ascent across the warm sector. There is some uncertainty regarding the influence of early day convection potentially spreading eastward out of the upper Midwest. The most favorable areas for surface-based development may be across lower Michigan, in closer proximity to departing shortways trough, and surface low. A couple of organized cells in clusters will be possible that in that area during the late afternoon and evening, with a threat of convection or development along any remnant outflow also appears most likely to occur over lower Michigan if any scenarios materialize. Further southwest into parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri, surface-based development cannot be ruled out, but appears increasingly unlikely due to strong capping. Elevated convection will likely develop north of the front across the region Friday night, which could pose an isolated hail risk, given the steep mid-level lapse rates and rather strong mid-flow that will be in place. I forgot to do the risks here. The hail threat is at 15% from Hannibal, Missouri, all the way to Michigan, as well as in these parts right here. The wind threat is more concentrated in parts of Michigan right here, but still is going to affect 7 million people, including down in Oklahoma City right here. tornado risk, it's concentrated in parts of Michigan right here with 2 million people right there. But anyway, that's basically the situation that we have right here. Let's go ahead real quickly to look at the models right here for this. The WRAP model has the Cape really going up in parts of Michigan, passing 3,500 in some of these areas. So that's a pretty interesting development right there. The Cape in parts of Missouri and Illinois is at 4,000, but the cap is the cap can get pretty strong there. Right there, so that's essentially the situation we have right here. So that's why they cut the slight risk out of parts of Missouri and Illinois and has it more concentrated in parts of Michigan right there. So with that being said, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps me out and helps me make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get more people involved with weather. And with that being said, guys, have a wonderful day. Stay safe.